2, 3. Welcome to She Rocked It. This is the place where ladies are talking about the ways we're blazing our trails and the things that put the wind in our sails. Hey, Rockstar. Welcome to the She Rocked It podcast. I'm your host, Karen Gross, and I can't believe it, but we are launching our 3rd season right now. Thank you so much for your support of the podcast. And if you're just tuning in, welcome. And if you're really interested in what we're doing here at She Rocked It and want to be a member, we have the community for you. Join our Rockstar network where you will have the opportunity to be part of podcast conversations like the one you're about to hear. You're going to get member-only invites to be part of our studio audience. So go ahead and check our website, join the network, and also don't forget to subscribe to our podcast while you're at it. This is such an exciting season, and we are kicking it off with 2 amazing conversations that were recorded live at the Bridge Recording Studio in Brooklyn, New York. Big thanks and shout out to Mona Cahan and her team for warmly welcoming us. And another special thank you to Fifth Hammer Brewing Company, who provided us with some delicious beer. And these 2 conversations are focused on real talk with women in the music industry. The conversation you're about to hear features some amazing performers, and the next conversation, our next episode, features women who are off stage in the music industry but play really important roles. Today, you're going to hear from Emily King and Kim Kalesti, an amazing mother and daughter who are both rock star musicians. And we happen to have a special guest appearance from Emily's grandmother, Kim's mother, Maggie Haley, who is going to be joining us. That was actually a late-breaking surprise that she was going to join the event. And this is such an exciting moment for She Rocked It because it's not only our first mother-daughter conversation, but our first daughter, mother, and then grandmother conversation. 3 generations of rock stars you're about to hear from. Let me tell you a little bit about Emily and Kim. Emily King is a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, most recently nominated for Best R&B Song and Best R&B Performance. She's toured with some incredible artists like Sarah Bareilles, Erykah Badu, Alicia Keys, John Legend, Maroon 5, and she just announced her own headlining tour and album, Special Occasion, both happening in May 2023. Stay tuned. I cannot wait. So I'm so excited to talk to Emily because her songs to me really speak to the woman's experience, seeking independence as a creative, seeking love, finding her voice. So if you haven't heard Emily's music yet, I cannot recommend it enough. We're also so excited to hear from Kim Kalesti, Emily's mom, who is a noted jazz singer, songwriter. Really, she has devoted herself to the creative life. She's also a wonderful painter, by the way. When Kim was married to Emily's dad, Marion Cowings, they were known as a really impressive jazz duo in New York City, playing with many of the jazz greats. And Kim also has released many of her own solo albums as a pianist and vocalist. Some of those albums include I Love Today, which is a song, by the way, I happen to love. New Worlds Became Me, Live from My Mind, and Diggin' in the Dirt. Kim's voice is truly enchanting, so I also highly recommend that you dig into her catalog. I'm going to give Kim the great honor and pleasure of introducing her mom, Maggie Haley, in this interview, so I'll save those words for Kim. And now, without further ado, hear from Emily, Kim, and Maggie.
Just want to say thank you both for entrusting She Rocked It with sharing your first mother-daughter interview and conversation. And we're really so privileged to get to document this today and hear your journey. So I just want to start by asking you both, what gave you the courage to really wholeheartedly pursue music as your life's work? And what obstacles did you have to overcome to really be a full-fledged creative?
Can I throw that over to Mom?
Well, is that what you're going to do?
Well, you started this mess.
I just always loved to sing. And I always, a little girl just singing to the cat, singing to the neighbors, singing to the relatives. I just love to sing, and I still do. Somebody asked me to sing, I just start singing.
Even if they don't ask.
Right.
There might be a little gentle ribbing through this conversation.
Yeah, there was a little bit
mother-daughter
of
ribbing.
On, so anyway.
That's okay.
Yeah, and so Mom and I, we started off on this adventure, of pursuing a career in music. And back in those days, you didn't pursue careers in music.
Right.
And it was a naughty thing to do. So we did it anyway because we're kind of naughty.
But how is she supportive of that very unconventional professional path?
Well, when we were really young, she made all the costumes, and she got us a dance teacher, and the dance teacher's mother was the agent, and we just performed all over.
Wow.
And then she used to look in the newspaper, in the jobs when we used to do that in the newspaper, and she'd find me some like voiceover work or
wow.
Was
this in New York City?
Me gigs
also?
In Pueblo, Colorado.
Oh, in Colorado,
where I'm from.
right?
Yeah, and so that was just something I just did. I started singing in clubs, nightclubs when I was 16. And,
in Colorado?
Yeah, in Colorado.
Very interesting. So there was performing opportunities for you there, which is great to hear.
Yeah. We kind of created them. We just sang for everybody. The boys' home, the hospital. Yeah, so a lot of places. And then eventually, mom. Because we're kind of victims of our parents, and so we have to kind of like go where they go. Yeah, so we ended up in Houston in 1973, and so I attended 1 year at the High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. And then after that, I just said, well, I'm already making money. Why do I have to go to college? Which I don't know if that was a mistake or not, but anyway, I just started performing in clubs and anywhere that I could. And then my friend said, well, you did everything that you can do here, so you need to go to New York. So that's when I went to New York. I was like 23 years old or something. And
it's a big move.
Yeah, it was a big move, yeah. So at that time, I met Marion, the kids' father, and we started singing together because I kind of like pursued that a little bit. I pushed it because back in the days, like, you didn't have children, and because I wanted to have children, I wanted to get married. So I actually asked him to marry, like I wanted to get married and have kids.
You rocked it, asking him for his hand? Yes, come on. Ask for what you want, sister.
No, because I told him it's kind of like a bank. I don't want to put my money in a bank where I don't get any interest. So.
Very smart. I'm taking notes, Kim.
I've never heard this.
This is great. This is great.
The thing is that I don't think I'm really smart. I think that I was just always following my intuition. And I never really planned anything. It was just like, oh, I could do that. And then I just did it. And so we had children, and then...
Can I just ask you a quick question? How did you know that he was the collaborator for you? Because I know you guys collaborated for a long time.
Well, because he was my soulmate. And I loved the way he sang, and we were kind of singing the same song, same, type of songs and in the genre of jazz. And I saw him perform, and we just hit it off. And he's just a really sweet fellow, and he's really talented. He has a beautiful voice.
Never heard this before. Are you recording?
Is this Oprah, Dr. Phil, or she rocked it? I'm not sure.
I love
This is great.
I told you.
All the juicy stuff. Brother, we're getting you up here next to hear the other side of the story. That's amazing. So, Emily, this is really interesting because, sometimes in families when your parent isn't a musician, and I was lucky because my folks were very encouraging, but sometimes parents can be very discouraging of being a professional musician. So being that your folks were professional musicians, when you said, I want to do this, like, was there, yes, awesome, or was there pushback of like, oh gosh, another, she's going to have to walk this path? How did that feel for you when you made that decision?
Well, it was a moment where I wanted to leave high school, and I wanted to leave early, and I said, I just got to get out of this building where, if a lot of the times you don't have music and art in the public schools. Yeah. So they were understanding of that, and I got my GED just to have some sort of, I don't even know where that certificate is, but
she doesn't. Well, sometimes we don't really remember exact things, but basically.
Oh yeah, do you remember differently?
No,
What happened?
Kim, what happened when she said
what
I wanted to
happened?
leave high school to do
you know,
music?
that's pretty serious stuff.
That's serious.
You know? And like for a parent, you're like, okay, so we had a family meeting. We called a family meeting. So.
And are you the older of the two siblings?
I'm younger.
You're the younger. Okay.
I often forget myself.
Okay.
My big brother is in the audience, AC Lincoln.
He rocked it. Yes, he did.
And he is the most supportive. He's the anchor of the family,
Yeah,
besides
yes.
Nani, our amazing grandma.
So back on the subject, because I think this is really important, like when, you know, like being a parent, it's a commitment. And no matter if it's hard or not, you have to really abide by that commitment. And so when your kids come and say that they want to quit school, it's serious. Like, what are you going to do? So, you know, she said she wanted to do what we do, and so did her brother. And so we're like, okay, if you want to do that, then you have to put in the time, and you have to put in the work, and you know, learn an instrument, write songs, you know, practice. Like, it's a serious thing, you know, being an artist. Some people, the civilians, people that aren't artists, I call them civilians. So the civilians, they don't know how much work it is to be, you know, a performer or an artist.
yeah, the hard work is
person.
making it look easy, right?
Yeah.
Look easy, but there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to do. You know, you have to be excellent, and then you got to learn about performing, and then you have to learn about your business and publishing and all kinds of stuff. Like, it's a lot.
It's true. And you, so you were probably 16 or 17 when you made that decision, right? What was it, Emily, that gave you the courage to say, and the awareness at that young age, to say, this is going to be my path? What gave you that courage?
Dumb.
Yes. Is it dumbness of
Confidence.
youth?
Yes.
Or is it the awareness of youth, maybe? Just the clarity?
I think it was, I had a big ego at that age. It's slowly been dwindling. But,
It does dwindle. Isn't that interesting? We have to like hype ourselves back up as we get
Yes.
older. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's true.
and I wanted to, I just, well, we didn't really have any other backup plans, skills that were developed within my youth. So I was like, this has to work. And it was fun. It was fun. But I think there is a misconception that because it's art, that you're just supposed to enjoy every moment because you love it so much. And it's not. You know, it's often very, I don't want to do this.
That's a great point. There is a lot of resistance and almost drudgery sometimes involved. You know, people think the glamour, and I talk about the accolades and singing, you know, and being a chanteuse, things like this. People, like you said, Kim, they don't realize the grind behind it. It's true. But you both have devoted yourself to the whole enchilada of all of that.
It's kind of like learn as you go.
Well, Emily was always really willing to listen. I really respect that about you, Emily, that you were really willing to listen, because I spent my whole life learning the music business, you know, of all those things that have to do with the music business. So then when my kids wanted to do it, then I was equipped to let them know that. And even though that I had a steady career and being prolific in my art, I was never really that, you know, well known, which is in retrospect, it was really more of a blessing to not be really famous, because then if you're really famous, then the kids have really, they have a hard time trying to live up to their parents. And you see that time and time again. But at the time, it was very, when you're in the moment, it's very painful. And, you know, you just, either you get spiritual or you find some kind of theory or something, modality to get you through it. But at the end of these, you know, different things that are happening between you and your children and your art, when you follow your intuition, it's like you're following the consciousness of the result of what you're supposed to be doing. And so when I looked back and I saw my kids, like, you know, actually when they put me on their Instagram, then I'm actually, you know, they're actually making me, you know, people more aware of me, which, you know, that's pretty much, I could
It's
never.
a cool exchange.
I could
now.
never
It's a
plan that.
That's so awesome. And I'm curious, that because isn't it nice to have a mentor in that way, your mom, I'm curious though, obviously how the music business has changed, that you've both seen it changed. We have 2 generations perspective now on the industry. How have you both experienced the industry as women, and how have you seen it change? Obviously, we had the Me Too movement that shifted attitudes in the conversation. Tell us a little more about how you've recognized the industry to change throughout your experience.
Go ahead, Emily.
Well, you have been around since the 60s.
Right, but let's hear you first. You're not talking that much.
Well, I don't know about, my memory is kind of spotty, so let me try to remember. I was 18 when I met a music producer named Chucky Thompson, and that was a thing to do, was to meet a producer and sign to a production deal, and then shop around the different record labels. So I'm going into L.A. Reid's office and Sylvia Rowan, and I'm doing singing with my guitar, and then they tell me if they like me. And then that was like 3 years of doing that with Chucky. And so that was my college, was Chucky Thompson.
Wow. He produced your first record, I think. He said,
And he was a big producer back in the 90s. He did Mary J. Blige, and he did a lot of great R&B music, so I was a fan. Rest in peace, Chucky. I love you. And so it's not like that anymore, I don't think. Now I'm signed to, I signed to Clive Davis, a 6-album deal. And all I can remember was, being in the salon like multiple times, because it was just about the look.
The hair salon.
Like, get the hair right. That's the most important thing. I'm like, so the musicians are waiting to get paid. And I'm like, look, I got to do my hair. I'm coming to you. So it was a lot. They had their priorities were very different.
That's interesting.
And so I ended up.
How much more cool could the hair get? Come on, than this. How much more doing to that? I know.
Anyway, I'm trying to fast forward into
this
question,
is really interesting. Yes,
because it was, that was the old fashioned before MySpace, before the internet.
So that was
really,
12, 13, 14 years ago. Let's
2003.
2003, roughly. Okay.
And so they were the gatekeepers, and that was the only way to really get your name out there. And you couldn't reach out to anybody yourself. The manager is supposed to reach out for you because there's no way to find them. Like now you just go to the Instagram, check, blue check, okay, hi. But back then it was like there was this wall between you and the audience.
Right.
And so
you were doing that grind in New York, playing the clubs, kind of waiting for that discovery moment.
Yeah, well, Kimmy was like, get 10 songs together and I'll get you a gig. My friend Dan works at the door at the bitter end.
That's a true mom move. Well done, Mom.
And then she said, well, now you have to record your demo. And my friend Bill Brown works at ASCAP, and we're going to have a meeting with him. And Bill's the one that introduced me to Chucky Thompson.
Wow. So Mom.
There's a lot of mom involved.
That's beautiful. Yes. Give it up for Mom being such a help. That's beautiful.
And Dad is great, too.
Give it up for Dad.
Dad is great, too.
Give it up for Dad. Dad's in the house. We love Dad.
Dad is just down for whatever, But Kimmy had the vision. So in those ways, it's really changed. So now I'm signed to, years later, I got dropped from the Clive Davis label. And that was a blessing in disguise because they'll never get a penny out of me. No. Because I'm free. I was free to do the music that I actually really wanted to do, because one of the painful things about that experience was I compromised my creative vision for the music.
And possibly your hair.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That was the most painful
I'm like,
part
what?
of this.
That was, okay. Yes.
And it was like, I actually got nominated for my first record for a Grammy. And I went to the Grammys and I was like, I had like it was just I felt like sick in my stomach because I just was like not 100% proud. I was proud that I put in the work and I really tried. But there were times when I knew something musically was off and I just let other people decide. So once I got off that label, I met Jeremy Most, who is my partner, my musical partner, just around that time. And he was like, we can work together, but don't ever compromise again, please.
Ooh.
So then, anyway, so that was about over 10 years ago. And now the most fulfilling thing is to give yourself the time, which I didn't have in that situation because everything was like, rush, get the single out. Now I have the time to really sleep on these ideas and know that I'm going to like them later. And I have the access to the audience, right? Which is amazing. It's instantaneous. And it's in those ways, it's very, very different from back when I was 23.
Thank you for sharing that journey. And I'm curious, both of you have such strong voices as artists. You're sharing your journeys from the heart, truly, as women. It's very moving. So I'm curious, it sounds like within the industry that was very bridling. You couldn't really share your true voice. How have both of you really, stepped out of the boxes, let's say, in order to raise your truest voice as musicians? Kim, why don't you start with that? Because I think that I'm curious because too, doing jazz standards for a long time is a fabulous thing, but you've also done a lot of solo albums of your originals, solo piano vocal, where your creative voice, your muse is loud and clear. So tell us about how you've honored your own voices in subsequent years how have you stayed true to your voices?
Well, I was really happy that I learned the American Songbook because they're well-crafted songs. They're like the most well-crafted songs.
This is true.
And that alone is going to school. And I worked with so many wonderful musicians. We have Marion Cowings and myself. We have recordings with Kenny Barron, Eddie Gomez, Al Foster, Gary Bartz, and we did a lot and then we have a big band album that we recorded in 1983. I Was Pregnant with Alex. And that has Claudio Roditi when he wasn't even famous yet, and Kenny Garrett, and, just all these wonderful musicians. We always work with the greatest musicians. So the thing is that, it was always about being excellent. We have this family thing where, you have to be excellent every time,
Can I interject?
Sure.
Because I'm curious myself. What happened to you? No. No, she's remained excellent, but it was interesting that you brought this up because there was a shift between Kimmy as Marion's singing partner, and then when you guys split up, then there was, I feel like you did get out of your box and you became your real self at that point, and it was different.
Yes, I rediscovered myself at that point in 1997. When I was going into my 40s, I really freaked out. I really did. I was like, no more, being this proper musician where it's sings really American Songbook. But I just freaked out, and a friend of mine introduced me to George Clinton from P-Funk. And so I didn't know who he was.
That's the perfect person to freak out with.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. If you're going to freak out with someone, freak out with George Clinton.
Yeah, so he says, well, you want to come over and meet him? He's at this...
Kim?
Oh my God.
At this hotel. And I was like, who is this guy? I never heard of him. I've heard of Duke Ellington. And, those people. Amazing. So we end up in this hotel room and, he says, my friend says, oh, George, did you meet Kim? She's really great. She can really sing. You should hear her sing. And he goes, oh, yeah, I'd like to hear you sing. So I started singing, if ever I would leave you, how could it be in autumn? And he's like, and then he started singing with me. And so for the rest of the night, although the place was just filled with a lot of people, he wanted to sing standards all night. So.
Wow. But I forgot that was a big part of that.
That was huge.
Transformation for you.
Yeah, because he started listening to all the jazz recordings that I had, and I told him I really just want to find my own voice. And so every time I met up with him, I'd have a new song that I demoed because I had a studio in my house, and that was 2000, after from 98 to 2000. And so I always came with the song. And then he put me in the studio and he was like, yeah, Kim, if that doesn't work out, don't worry about it. We'll just do it with something else. So we did one of my songs, Hello Daydream, which I first recorded in 1979 with Kirk Whalum back in Houston. And then we took the same song, and then he had this like guy from Chicago do a whole orchestration of it. And he goes, we're going to do this like for 13 minutes. We're going to do the song for like 13 minutes. And I'm like, okay. And so he put me in the studio. He goes, just give it a little space in between, and then he would come in and sing a little bit, And
this is
so
George Clinton we're still talking about, right?
Yeah, George Clinton.
Okay, I just want to make sure. This is unbelievable. Do you know about this? Jesse, heard
Do
this?
I know about this?
Okay.
Let's get down to it.
So I was back to my old Pueblo self at that point because I'm originally like a hippie, like I have these overalls.
I never met that person before.
See, that's interesting. She let her hair down. Wow.
Yeah, I was traveling all over. I had my sneaks on and my overalls, my
wow.
ski overalls.
So
and my
interesting. So
with
that
my
was a
long
real
hair.
pivot point.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that's so interesting. And I want, if you both could give us a little window into, you're giving us a little taste of it, Kim, here, but like into your creative process. You're both such incredible songwriters and lyricists and musicians. Tell us about like how that happens for each of you. What's your writing process like and your creative process like? And I have to also say, as a woman, when you're a creative, it's a different life. It's a different life, right? And your song, The Distance, has a lyric where you say, about kind of needing to take some time apart, right?
Yeah.
For love to be stronger. And sometimes, even when you're in partnership, having time for yourself as a woman, and you had been in partnership for a long time, like having the solo time to create, time to be inward. Tell us a little bit about that process as women creatives.
You go first.
Well, I know what doesn't work is trying to like force it
Yeah.
or it's good always to acknowledge that there's like an open door and never underestimate an idea, because you could be in a grocery store and like somebody says something and you're like, oh, that's a good idea. There's never like a lightning striking moment where it's like, oh, this is the best idea, In fact, it's often like you just show up to be creative. You don't have to even sit down. You can go for a walk, but you're just setting the intention to be creative.
Yeah.
And then it's very like, I don't know, it's just very like not exciting sometimes. It's
just like having coffee.
Yeah.
It just shows,
It's just, you just do the work, and then later, if you still like it, there's a good chance somebody else is going to like it too.
Because I saw that video of you when you were like kind of hitting your chest doing this year. Like, I just wrote this song. Like, you were hitting it against your chest before it had been produced and before it was a smash. It's like, so did it almost just come to you? You were like, dun, 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 and it's like, oh my gosh, I got a song. But you didn't let it go. You held on to it.
That's exactly what it was.
Woo!
Yeah,
I felt
just
that.
like, well, it came from an idea because it was New Year's Eve and everybody posts on Facebook all the highlight reels of the happy times. And then I looked at mine and I was all like selfies, like, and I'm like, God damn, like, what the hell? And that was, I was trying to look cute for somebody the whole year. And so I said, okay.
Bought new jeans
spent
and
the
cut
year.
my hair.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
grew my hair.
Thank you.
Grew my hair, not cut my hair. You cut your hair after.
Yeah.
I felt that line.
Really?
She has this line in the song, bought new jeans and grew my hair. And let's be real, who hasn't changed their appearance for a partner at a time?
Yeah.
Most of us. That hit me.
Oh,
That's
wow.
real shit. Yeah, I felt
Thanks.
that.
What?
But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this is a long answer, so let's move on to you. But I mean,
Are you finished?
I think so.
But I just have to say, but Kim, I want you to go. Like, I if I have to thank Instagram for like showing some highlight reels of everyone else's like joy, if it made that song, I'm glad.
Oh, thank
that
you.
was, a good thing that came out of Instagram.
No,
that
I
you
would-
wrote that song in response to seeing everyone else is like, yeah, New Year's Eve.
Well, I was I wanted to post what they were doing. Like I wanted, that's why I went on my phone. I was like, okay, I should do that too, And then I realized, like, well, the truth of the matter is, like, I spent a lot of time trying to get someone else to love me, and that's so that I said, spent the year trying to get you to love me, and then I think it helps sometimes to like stare out at something else, and get out of your head, and then you just like have a conversation with yourself, I guess.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm glad you held on to that amazing song.
Thanks.
Yes.
So, Emily, did you thank the person that you wrote that song for?
I quietly am grateful for that.
But tell us about your process.
Well, basically, it's a yearning to express what is bothering you in that moment. And we do that all the time. We do it through talking or calling somebody or drawing or, anything, crossword puzzles, whatever. And so I remember when I was going to make sure that I was going to, I loved practicing, first of all. I loved to practice. I was always practicing. And within my practice, I would always write something. And because I wasn't really schooled, I was, trying to figure it out on, the little notes and stuff like that. And then I developed my own way of writing, which is another conversation. And I use it as my therapist because I can't afford a therapist. And I don't really want to have a therapist because I think it's just not right for me. But I use songwriting and painting as my therapist. And once I get it out of my body, then it's something that relates to other people because we're all pretty much the same. And that's what I do. Like, I love today. Emily and I were walking down the street, and it was a beautiful day, and I was like, I love today. And it was like, and a lot of times I'll just say the word because we talk in melody. So I said, I love today. Ba-dee-doo-dee, 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 ba-da-da-da, ba-dee-doo-dee, doo-dee-doo-da, And so I would just pick it out on the piano and I write out the melody first. And then I go back and I add notes. I don't even know what the chords are or the key or anything, but I'll just add notes that express that emotion of that one word. And then I'll keep going back and doing that, and then all of a sudden, all the little notes work really well together. And so that's it.
So interesting. I wouldn't have assumed that because it feels like you're a trained like jazz pianist. So to share the
yeah,
at least. But I'm also an ear trained musician. So I'm very inspired by that because to know that you don't have that jazz training, whatever, is for me is permission perhaps to really own it.
Well, it's all up here when you're listening to it, and it just becomes you. And then when you sit down at the piano, you're starting to hear all of those beautiful colors and textures that you've been listening to all over the years. Like,
right.
It comes through. It becomes who you are.
Speaking of becoming who you are, we now have the distinct honor of welcoming our surprise and very, very special guest, Maggie Haley.
Yes.
AKA Maggie, AKA Sparky.
Right.
Yes. Margot, this is a historic moment because not only do we have our first at She Rocked It mother-daughter interview, but we have a daughter, mother, grandmother interview. Come on up, Maggie!
Yay! The matriarch of our family.
Oh my goodness.
The strength behind our family is my mom.
Kim, while Maggie's
grandmother.
getting situated, why don't you give her a little introduction for us?
Well, she was born in the Rocky Mountains, and her first house was an adobe house made out of straw and mud from her Italian parents. That's how she started. And is that funny?
Sounds ridiculous.
That's ridiculous, but it's true. Mom, your life is ridiculous.
The
Sorry.
whole life is. What do I say?
The whole life.
So,
she just turned 88 yesterday.
She was just her birthday yesterday.
Give it up, 88 years old yesterday. So So we get Maggie a day after her birthday. Did full moon yesterday. This is a magical day, and 88 is a magic number.
Thank you.
How are you feeling, Maggie, at 88?
I have no aches, pains, nothing. It's just I move slow, you know?
You're rocking
And you
it.
know what? If I had to run, I probably could run.
I believe it.
And so I don't get to do my introduction?
Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh,
Go for it.
okay.
Keep going, Kim.
I just wanted to say some things about moms. So anyway, throughout her life, she started working when she was like 12 or 13, and she stopped working when she was 80. She retired at 80. She has had 5 children and two stepdaughters, but she always worked. She was a working mother, and she always had these jobs, and she always supported us in every way, emotionally and financially. She moved to New York in 1991 to help Marion and I as a manager when we had a gig in Japan. And then from there, she started a new career. And when she was in her 65 at Aon Insurance Company at the World Trade Center. And she's a survivor of 9/11. And now she's in her 8 years of being home. And she's just been going on family tours to all of her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And we're just really happy that she's still here with us.
So, Maggie, if I may be so bold, I have to have a whole podcast just with you.
I have,
We're
a,
gonna
lot
have
to,
to
I
do
have
that.
a lot to say.
Yes.
And I love what you're doing with women. I was a pioneer. When I was very young, I sued an enormous company for discriminating, and I won. That was back in the day when that did not happen. So I have a big heart for what you're doing with women. And
Thank you, Maggie.
thank you for having me.
Thank you. Honor. I'm rather speechless. But one thing I did just want to ask you, Maggie, is you have an artistic family, and that doesn't
Yes.
happen by accident.
Yes.
It happens by empowerment, right?
Right.
So what would you say, how through your own empowering of your voice, you've raised your voice in that way you just said about fighting against discrimination, how have you kind of empowered your whole family to raise their voices, and why?
Well, I've always been a rebel.
A rebel?
Because I never followed the instructions, or that's why I'm alive today. But I think with all my children, they all are individuals. They're all strong, and they're very opinionated, and they're all have some kind of creative juices about them. There's artists, dancers, singers, musicians, and so the major thing you want to do is to support them, no matter what. And as long as you support them, it will happen. And they just need to do the work and have somebody be behind them, pushing them and saying, you can do it. And I take a lot of pride in all my family. I have 28 great-grandchildren, and every single one of them is just doing something with their lives. And they call me the matriarch, whatever it is. I was put here for some reason, and it's to empower our young people, because the future is our young people. And what I've done, Kim, she's saying, I couldn't shut her up when she was 5 years old,
Okay.
We'd have company, and she'd stand on the coffee table and say, I'm going to sing. Okay. So, the generations here with Emily and Alex, that's natural. They were supposed to be artists. And I remember Emily, when she first started out, she needed somewhere to record. Can I tell this story?
Yeah, do whatever you want.
So she stayed with me. It was a perfect studio because I had food and everything, and I cooked for her, But you know where the studio was? In my closet. So I took all my clothes out of the closet. I bought some sound sheets, put in some recording stuff, and Emily was in the closet recording. What was that one song? The one that
I
you...
wrote a lot of songs in your
Yeah, she wrote a lot of songs in my
Yeah.
closet.
I think I recorded Distance there.
Yeah, right.
You recorded Distance and
I recorded Distance.
So
Sparky's
the whole
closet?
thing is, I used to
No.
worry about her because I thought she was going to suffocate in there because there was no air. So we put a little fan in there and a little light and a chair, and so Emily sat in there and recorded, and so that was my proud moment. Some of the songs that came out of there.
I just want to say it's just one of the billions of incidences where you've supported us, and also financially. You know, you bought us groceries and all.
Yeah,
And
when they were all starving.
Yeah. Yeah. And you opened a credit card for me when I had my
Yeah.
first tour.
And I did your first tour
You did?
with Maroon 5.
She organized
I organized
the
the
tour.
whole tour.
Oh, we did a routing
Remember we
together.
sat on the couch.
Yeah.
We planned
organized
everything. All
Emily's
the
tour
trains,
she did
all
with
the
Maroon
hotels.
5. Come on. Did I hear that right? Is this really... This is amazing. You know, I always finish our She Rocked It interviews by asking our guests for their one tip to rock it. You all rock it. So if you each could share, and Maggie, I got to know also one tip to being so fabulous at 88. What's a tip?
Well, for many years, I had a young boyfriend that helped out. And the guy thought he was so healthy and everything, and he up and died on me 2 years ago. And I outlived him. He was only in his 75, I think, something like that. So
Well, I
I'm
do see
kind
some
of
handsome
angry at
young
him right now,
fellas in
but-
the audience today. So
Yeah,
stick around.
but, you just have to live life every day. Wake up and be thankful that you're alive and do something for somebody.
Thank you, Maggie. How about you, Kim? What's your one tip to rock it?
Well, life is, it's not fun, and sometimes not fun. Sometimes it's really fun, and sometimes it's very tragic, and, but all of those things are relevant. And I always try to, just go through them. And one of my friends from high school, she asked me years ago, she goes, "How did you stay in the arts?" And I said, well, every time somebody pushed me down, I would just get back up. That's all. I'd just get back up.
Amen to
move
that.
forward.
Thank goodness you did. And Emily, what's your one tip to rock it?
To rock it?
Yes.
I guess community, making friends with the people who you admire and respect and supporting them just like you're doing.
That's
Amen
it.
to
Yeah,
community.
that's it.
That is it. Tribe vibes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes
Find the right
how-
community.
Yeah, I think that what I learned was your friends help you. You help them, and things that you think are come through business things, like networking things. Most of my opportunities came from my friends. The Maroon 5 tour came from a friend. So community and exchange and love, and I don't know.
Yeah,
family.
that's excellent.
That's great.
That's
Yeah,
right.
community is important.
Mom said that was right. Did you hear that?
That's right. That's what
That's
I taught
right.
her to say.
I agree.
Oh my goodness. Let's give a round of applause for this amazing
Thank you.
family. Shout out to brother in the house.
Give it up for Karen, you guys. Amazing.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you for having
You're
us.
amazing.
Thank
Stay
you.
amazing, Karen.
Wow, that was such a powerful conversation. Thank you so much again to Emily, to Kim, and to Maggie for sharing their story with us. What an honor. I also want to say a special thanks again to Mona Cahan and the team at the Bridge Recording Studio in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And another big thanks to everyone who was in the house that day. If you want to be part of our next studio audience, don't forget to join our Rockstar Network. Check out SheRockedIt.com to join. And it was amazing to also have some special family members in the house for this conversation. Thanks to AC Lincoln, Emily's brother, Kim's son, for being there. Thanks to members of my family who were there. And also a monstrous thank you to the She Rocked It team for being there in force and documenting this incredible conversation on video. Check it out on our YouTube channel if you're not tuning in already. This episode has been edited by Aaron Phelan and produced by Tori Marchioni, with audio engineering by Tung Chen. The She Rocked It theme song is by Karen Gross and Tim Motzer. Visit our Instagram page at She Rocked It to join the conversation, and visit our website, sherockedit.com, to learn about how you can join our Rockstar Network membership community, support our work, and attend our live events and podcast tapings. Hope to see you on the inside.